A good one.
Welcome to The Collective, where every conversation ignites a new perspective. Join us as we delve into the journeys of remarkable individuals, explore the art of growth, resilience, and the power of a shared mission as we strive to be better together.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Gold Mine. We have another fantastic show for you planned out today. I am very excited. We got Mike returning. We got Jarret here for the first time. We're going to be talking about Untapped 60, and I'm pretty excited about this. So if there are any thoughts, questions, comments, anything at all, put them up in the comment section as we go through the show. We can hit those. If you have not already, make sure you are signed up for the Reinforcement Loop. That is our weekly newsletter that goes out and keeps you in the loop with everything we do here at The Collective. And before we get into any conversation, we got to get some intros. Let's hit it up. Mike, why don't you hit us up? 10, 15 seconds. Who are you, where you come from? All that good stuff.
My name's Michael Laughlin. I'm from Kingston, Ontario. I'm my claim to fame is I'm Canada's first and still only above-knee amputated full-time firefighter. And I became an amputee in 2016 after a motorcycle accident. And now I do some motivational speaking, some keynote speaking with Untapped 60 with my best friend Jarret, who's here today.
Bam. I love it. Jarret, why don't you give us your 10 to 15 seconds? What do you got?
Yeah, Jarret Robertson. I'm from Kingston as well, but I live just outside of Toronto now in Whitby, Ontario. My claim to fame is that I'm just going to ride Mike Laughlin's coattails as we grow Untapped 60. And that's about it.
Bam. I love it. And see how excited I was to get into the show. I forgot to do something because I was so excited. So don't forget, always like the show, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, do all the good stuff, get your emails when we go live, which is of course Wednesdays for the Gold Mine and Fridays for the Collective. Sean, I see you smiling. How's life out in the mountains?
Things are good.
I love it. Okay, well then let's get started. I'm gonna go back to Mike. Tell us about Untapped 60. What do you guys do? How does it all work? Break it down.
So Untapped 60, I did a bunch of motivational speaking around the high schools and public schools around Kingston. And I really enjoy it, telling my story about my two accidents, the suicide of my girlfriend, drug addiction, PTSD, depression, all the things I've been through in life. And Jarret, which he'll tell you a little more about, but he has a platform, Make It a Great Day. And so we both were trying to get a message out there to help people. And I said, Jarret, is there some way we can do this together? We've been best friends since we were 10 years old. We were rival hockey players when we were 9 years old. And then we came together on like a AAA all-star team and became best friends. We sat together next to each other in the dressing room and became fast friends. And we've been best friends ever since. And we've been through all the stuff together that I've experienced and Jarret's experienced. And so we wanted to do something together that we're able to help as many people as possible. And so telling my story and letting people know they're not alone and they can get through anything they're going through was basically the message. And so we came up with Untapped 60. And so it became a keynote and a public speaking, message, but then it grew and now it's grown into this. We've got a website with courses you can take to better your life. And Jarret's going to touch more on that stuff, but it's this platform and it's all about helping people.
Bam. I love it. Jarret, why don't you break it down for us as well?
Yeah, I'd say exactly that. To add to it, the courses were specifically designed and rooted really in lived experiences. What have we gone through? What can we put together that can help people improve their life? So they're completely different. It's not a psychology course. It's not a mechanics course. It's not a math course. It's not an English course. There's courses on happiness. There's courses on how to build confidence. There's courses on purpose, goals, emotional intelligence. And I get there's lots of courses out there around that stuff too, but we really wanted to focus. So when a traditional course comes up, I'm like, with my team and research team, I don't love it. So I really like the fact that behind this Make It a Great Day and Untapped 60, the part of the lived experiences is, when Mike was going through all these times, we still do it today with each other. But particularly, I remember specifically, Laughlin, you'll agree with this, when he was out of the hospital after the amputation, he was at his dad's house and the support dies off a little bit, right? As we all know, people go back to work, and he was, quote unquote, fine. time to move on and live with your amputation. Well, I mean, he'd call me because he can't go back to work. He can't go out anywhere. And he'd be like sad, depressed. What am I doing? Is life worth it? And he has said, like, he'd call me, and I had a way of turning the day around. And I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I think it was just important to let him know, man, like, look at the support you had, look at what we've been through, look where you are. And for me to tell him he is a warrior on the inside and he can do this stuff. And that was really nice to hear. So 10 years later, roughly 8 or 9 years later, here we are, and we can go back to that stuff and say, man, what got you through that? Culture, community, camaraderie with people, happiness, gratefulness. The word abundance gets thrown around a lot in social media, but just things like that I'm really proud of with Untapped 60, and why we're doing this. The keynote is, 95% Mike getting out there to tell a story. That's what people want to see and hear. The courses, as I just touched on, we have a book on our website that people can buy to go through and really read in depth in the details of his story. And I'll answer this question ahead of time, because a lot of people are always asking, what's the U60? What's the Untapped 60? So it's said when you're down and out and at your absolute worst. So, rock bottom, and you got a shovel in your hands. Whether it's spiritually, financially, emotionally, physically, all the things, you're at about 40% of your human potential. So we have an untapped 60% inside of us that can push us beyond what we even know. Now, I believe there's probably, I'll make up a number, 10, 15% that's saved for like literally life or death that the Mike Laughlins of the world had to figure out. But how do I go to the gym and, do some squats and think I'm tapped out? And then I go to the gym with, you, Chance, and you squat just a little bit more than me. And then all of a sudden I can do more. How can I do a marathon when I never thought possible I could do that? How do we tap into that potential we have? And then professionally at work as well, how do I approach my boss? How do I ask for a raise? How do I push my idea? So many things of this untapped potential inside of us all. And that's what Mike and I really want to deliver, that message, and help leaders, help people, help anyone who's been through trauma, help amputees, to show that you're going to be okay. Here are some tools to help you get through that.
I love it. Sean, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I like it as well. Now that I understand the Untapped 60, totally makes sense, and it's great. But how much have you tapped into, boys? So you've got the Untapped 60. Have you tapped into an extra 1% of the demographic? Have you got another 2% of the population? Do you have another 3% of your friends doing better? Is your neighbor 5% better? Let's talk about percentages since we're at the Untapped 60. What have been your not just wished outcomes, but tangible, reach out and poke them outcomes that you're really proud of?
I know that, within speaking, doing keynotes that we've done, the public speaking we've done, we always have 1 or 2 people that come up after and tell us that, what we've talked about that day has changed their life. And there's a couple instances, and Jarret, the lady who had lost the child, right? We both, like, I got tingles just talking about it now, but we did a talk for a bunch of nurses at KGH here in Kingston at the hospital. And after, a lady comes up and she said, I lost my child, and this just really helped me, refocus on, life is worth living, and I can get through this, and all the things that we were trying to convey to people. She was saying that talk had just given her. And so Jarret and I always say, if we can have 1 person every time we talk, we're winning, right? And we know we're helping more. I mean, my inbox is flooded every single day with messages, just from doing some social media. So I don't know about percentages, Sean, because I don't know what what percentage of people that we've talked to have changed, but I really do feel like, at least half the people in that crowd take away something every time we talk. And I think that's pretty good considering a lot of people, even kids we've spoken in front of, or I spoke in front of public schools now. So I've got a PG version of what I do, right? Dumbed it down a little bit, not so much gory stuff talking about, but the kids and the teachers will come up after and say, I've never seen our kids so quiet and focused and sat there for an hour and never said a peep. And it's like, really? And they're like, oh, yeah, I've never seen that before. And it works on all ages, and all ages need to hear that they can get through whatever they're going through. And they need to hear stories that, you're going to go through things in life. It's how you react to them. That's going to make, who you are. Right. So.
I love it, Jarret.
I'll add to that. So it's as Mike just said, it's how you react. So we have the choice. You guys will agree with this, as I feel you're on the same thoughts in this sense that we have a choice how we react, right? Mike could have died. He had a choice and he made this decision, had to fight through it. We have a choice. If someone calls me stupid or fat or ugly, or in the society, someone on social media, I have a choice how I react. I have a choice how I react with my kids. I would say this to the percentages, Sean, which I appreciate that. I don't keep stats yet. 100% of the time, we affect people, like Mike just said. What I'm looking to help Mike do, and what I'm looking for help from anyone, and you guys are part of this, is getting in front of more people, whether it's podcast or in person. So much like Chance just said, you guys, your camaraderie is amazing. I go, well, Mike and I are in public. It is so easy for the two of us to be who we are, and people really appreciate that these days, and I appreciate it on any podcast I see or an interview, or I just want to see authenticity. And when we speak, I give like a 90-second, 2-minute intro, if I give an intro at all. When Mike and I have talked, I said, don't change. Don't rehearse. Don't change. Maybe you have to say a couple things because we're in a room with kids or nurses or something, but just tell your story, because that's what people are they gravitate towards it. And so 100% of the time we affect people. Is it 100% of the time do we affect 50% of the crowd? I'd be shocked. And I promote it this way. In the book and in Mike's story, and with Make It a Great Day too, my platform and what I preach, I'll say 100% of what we have to say, there's a message out there for every single person. So I'll make it this simple. In my first book, Make It a Great Day, I talk about drinking water and why that's so important. And there's a bazillion reasons why I drink water. But I'm pretty sure drinking water will help everyone on planet Earth. Laughing. Pretty sure laughing will affect, is a healthy thing for everyone on planet Earth. Physical activity. I mean, that's an easy one. Choosing to call a friend so you can have a conversation with. So everything we talk about, whether it's Make It a Great Day and then Untapped 60, there's a message out there for every single person. So Mike's story just helps because I always joke about, I couldn't just get on stage and say, oh, rainbows and butterflies, the sun's out today. You should be grateful when, someone went through a suicide or a trauma. I go, look it. If you need to hear a story that is mind boggling, then, hey, let me introduce you to Mike Laughlin. And he comes out and he's bubbly and rainbows and butterflies on the stage, laughing, making fun of himself, telling this harrowing story. And then at the end, it ends with love and a family and the best life you can have. Well, I think the question becomes, do you have to go through that to get the best life you could ever imagine? And I think that's an existential question. You can't, I'm like, I don't want anyone to have to go through what Mike went through to find the love of his life and have children and have all this stuff. I'm like, my gosh. But that's a question, because Mike had to go through some things and decide, as I say it, he'll never say it, but he had to decide to live or die. He tried to die twice, lied in the ditch and said, just lay back and die. He had to make that decision to live. I don't have to decide to live. I just have to breathe the air. And then he has the best life he's ever had. That's pretty cool.
I dig it. And so I got a question on this, but I just want to hit these comments real quick. Dan C jumped in here right off the bat. He said, "Good morning, gentlemen. Time for another ass-kicking day." And on the Instagram side, Grayman Project, Brady hit us up, said, "Oh, look at these awesome dudes. We got Dave Curvin in here saying, 'Good afternoon, gentlemen. Love this panel. I'll be looking to connect with these great guys.'" And absolutely, you guys should connect. Dave is awesome, dude. And Operation Trauma Recovery. Sean, good to meet you briefly at Pegasus Jump. Yeah, that's Mike over there. The question I had for you guys is, the thought comes into my head is like, why the demand? Like, speakers are a big thing now. And I mean, keynote speaking has been around for a long time, speeching, orating, and telling stories and all this stuff. But why the demand now? Do you think it is the intentionality? Do you think it's the authenticity? Why do you think that there is this draw for people to hear those stories and get that information? Mike, what do you think?
Hang on a sec. Let me just jump in because I want to set the stage for your question just a bit more. Because you're right. Orating has been going on for a long time. Speakers have been speaking for a long time. But guess what? It wasn't everyone, which it is today. And so, if you talk Plato or you talk Socrates or you talk whoever who were formally trained, professionally delivering oration, that's a whole different thing than some rando in his basement with a microphone chirping about stuff he doesn't understand. That's fact.
Good point. Yeah.
There's a bajillion of them out there right now. So for sure, there's been talk since mankind existed, but there's too much talk existing right now. That's what I'd like to set the stage. So, and as a follow-on to that, while we're talking about the importance of speaking to people authentically on these kind of mediums or person to person, we do need to go from this point that we're about to discuss as the follow-on. Mike, you need to launch into your story, not the elevator pitch, not the 90-minute long pitch, but if you can condense your story down into maybe 5 or 10 minutes, I know that's unfair, but just to give the audience a sense of what we're talking around. Mm-hmm. We're talking about you, but we haven't heard the story. So maybe we can get into that momentarily.
The first thing is, no matter how much schooling you take, no matter how many books you've opened, you can't learn what I've been through, right? You can't learn it. So if you got so many degrees and diplomas that tell you how to, get through this and do that and deal with coming home and holding your girlfriend's dead body on the couch, and the trauma and going through, breaking yourself twice, losing your leg, when they chop your leg off and you wake up at a surgery and your leg's not there. No one can teach that. You have to go through it, right? So I'm authentic as it gets when it comes to that, and I'm speaking the truth and of lived experience, and that's the difference, lived experience. So for any of you that don't know my story kind of starts in 2007.
Laughlin, hold on. Laughlin, hold on. Let me add to that before we go. This is an open combo, right? Okay. So 100%, I want to add to that. There, Sean, is exactly that. I am your speaker, and the research I've done, the position I've taken in life, make it a great day. I choose to wake up every day and see the bright side. Now, I got a family and kids, and I'm like, not every day is great. So I was looking to speak, and I still do speaking, my rainbows and butterflies speech. I'm what you're talking about. There's a bazillion of me, motivational speakers. And I agree with you. And Mike, as we just said, is I can just say, listen, just listen. And what I love about our keynote, yes, we have a platform. Yes, there's a book. Yes, we'd love for you to sign up and subscribe. On our keynote, I'm not there to sell you anything. I'm really not. We're not there to sell Untapped 60. It's a brand. I get it. I want to tell you a story that is quite, as I say in a lot of posts, unbelievable. Like you can't believe this. And then if you can't take a message from the 5 or 6 traumas there, like getting arrested, coming out of that, the PTSD, obviously the traumas, if you don't take a message, I don't think you were listening, but everyone will take a message from that. And that's the win for us right now is yes, you can, don't quit. It's going to get hard. That's the message. And that's the win. So I love the fact that, and you just said the authenticity for Mike, that's I think what separates us, and the camaraderie with the two of us. but you're right. I agree with, the motivational speaker, which I love being. I got tons of energy. I can pop on stage. I think I'm a pretty likable guy. I've been told I brighten the room. Awesome. And I hope I can do that for a lot of people. But the keynote and the speaking is definitely that I'm not here to sell you something. I'm really here to support my best friend. And I want you to listen. I want you to listen to this. This is crazy. So why do I want to listen to this? Mike, go ahead.
So my story starts in 2007, out for a snowmobile ride. It was midnight, pitch black, snowing very hard, almost sideways. And I was going across the lake, following a friend, trying to keep up with him. Couldn't keep up with him. So I sped up, trying to catch the back of him. And before you know it, I was doing 90 miles an hour and 10
Hang on
feet
a
away.
sec. It's midnight. You're
Midnight.
ripping across a lake.
Yes.
What's up with that?
You know what? I was
Just
young.
a couple
I was
of
26.
just a couple of dudes gong showing it up at midnight.
Yeah,
or
like
what?
I grew up as a
Oh,
country
boy.
boy, right? I grew up in the country. We rode
There we go.
everything. Dirt bikes, four-wheelers, whatever we could go on as fast as we could, right? And so we were just out for a rip across the lake, and that's what we did. We ran the lakes as fast as we could.
Nice.
And thinking I was invincible, I hadn't broke a bone up until that point. And I'm doing 90 miles an hour, and there's an island 10 feet away from me, and I let go of the handlebars, and I thought to myself, I'm dead. And the next thing I know, I sat up, and I remember thinking this: I'm alive. Oh my God, I'm alive. And I looked down, and my left leg was snapped off at the femur, sideways. And so panicked, tried to phone 911. The phone died. I had this big plan in my head that because there was this cottage on the island, I was going to light the cottage on fire. So I was trying to crawl to the cottage, and twice on the way crawling, I had laid down and just put my arms out and said, "Die." And I tried to die. And then I would think, I can't do that to my family. I can't do that to my friends. And I kept crawling. And, the guy that I was with finally came back and found me and dragged me up on the snowmobile and took me in. They got me in a car and got me to the hospital. And, I went into surgery, woke up the next morning, and I had shattered 6 inches of my femur, snapped my kneecap off, broke my tibia and fibula, and compound fracture of my ulna sticking out through my arm. And I didn't even know my arm was broken. I was using it to pull myself, do everything. But I was in so much pain, I didn't even feel it, right? So it took a little while to recover from that, but I went right back to firefighting, playing hockey, I was a catcher in fastball. You never would have known I was ever in an accident after that. Back to full duties firefighting after 8 months. I went back to light duties in like 2 months, back to a desk. And I've got these big gnarly scars on my left side. So fast forward to 2011, with my girlfriend of 4 years that I had met in the gym, recovering from that accident. I went to high school with her. We owned a yoga studio together. She was a yoga teacher, a very well-known yoga teacher in Kingston. And we went out for Jarret and my birthday. So Jarret's birthday is on January 9th. Mine's on January 10th. We always celebrated together. We went out for her birthday, and Jen didn't come. She stayed home. She decided to stay home. Came home the next morning, went out with the guys, partied all night, stayed at our friends. Came home the next morning. She was laying on the couch, went in the kitchen, was doing some stuff in the kitchen. I saw her laying on the couch, and I started talking to her, "Hey, you going to get up?" kind of thing, and nothing. And then did a couple more things and kind of peeked over, and I was like, something's wrong. And I got about halfway there, and, it hit me. She was dead. And so she had committed suicide while I was out that night. And the kicker was, and I don't know if you guys know this, I'm not sure if I told this on the story on the podcast last time, but so let's back up a little bit. 2007, snowmobile accident, painkillers. They were handing them out like Tic Tacs. I was hooked on painkillers for a long time. A couple of years go by, the doctor tries to cut me off because they're starting to get in trouble for overprescribing. And so I was like, yeah, no problem, until I found out I was going to be very sick. So a big taboo thing at the time, but I had to go get on methadone to get off the painkillers. I had no choice because I wanted to work and I wanted no one to know. So I went into the next town over and went to a clinic and got on methadone to get off painkillers. Methadone's a whole nother devil in itself. And so, but I was able to live life without having to be on painkillers, and it was more like stable, right? And monitored. Jen had killed herself with my methadone. So talk about blaming yourself for all of it, right? it was like, it's all my fault. I should have seen this. I should have known it was going to happen. Plus, because of my problems, she was able to use that to do it. Now, over time, you learn that you can't stop suicides. If we could stop them, we'd stop 100% of them if we knew. And if it wasn't that she used, she would have used something else. And those are the things you start to accept over time when you start realizing what suicide's all about. But I went down a very dark road after that, went back into using painkillers to the point where I got arrested. I got picked up buying illegal drugs. So your hometown hero firefighter is all of a sudden, not only, his girlfriend committed suicide, it's kind of a sketchy situation, but now he's a drug addict and he's arrested. He's a dirtbag, right? So I hit rock bottom after that.
So you hit rock bottom, but I'm curious, throughout this story, let me know when you were actually at rock bottom. Is this it, or is there more to come?
There's more bottoms, but this was the bottom of the bottom.
This was the bottom. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So this was the first deep rock bottom.
Yeah, because I tell everyone this. I said, I would rather crash that snowmobile 100 times than go through emotional pain that I was going through. And I didn't.
That.
I'm going to add to this.
I'm going to add to this. Take a moment there, Laughlin. I'm going to add to this, boys. It'll choke me up too. It's only the second time he's admitted
boys.
That.
What the hell? Like, I didn't know that I was going to have to get on my rehydration mix on BioSteel for the electrolytes. Like,
what is this salty discharge?
Don't even, like, I'm already dehydrated from yesterday. What is even going on right now?
This is the second time he's admitted that, and I've known it forever. And I told him, I go, when you're ready, man, it's up to you. It's not, I can't imagine the guilt that he went through, and I was there with him. And I couldn't do anything, right? No one could. He had to get through that himself. But that guilt is astronomical to think that. So that's the second time he's talked about it, boys. Good job.
And Sean, you just joked about it a little bit, but like me being this macho guy, it was like I couldn't accept that. Right. I didn't want to deal with anything. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I'll do it myself. So I self-medicated, and then, and then you get arrested and you hit rock bottom. It's like, I don't need help. What are you talking about? I'm a man. I can do this, right? I don't need, and that's the way we carried ourselves back then. And that's a big change in why, our story is so much more needed these days too, because men are accepting that it's okay to feel emotion and stuff these days. It's okay to get help, right? More so than ever. And that's why we think Untapped.
You're a great representation of it, because, when you came on the podcast first, I didn't know you were coming on. Chance sets up all of the guests. And so I had all of about 3 minutes to figure out who you were. You were on the podcast, bam, you did your thing. And then I've been tracking you ever since. And what I see is a guy who is proud of who he is and actually has an ego that you could rein in a little bit, because you are so proud of who you are. And there's a reason for it. Because you've come a freaking long way. And it's hard to get a healthy balance on an ego when you've come from that kind of a rock bottom to where you're at right now. A proud man who's accomplishing things, who isn't being given it on a silver platter. And so now I understand why, I've been looking at you as a super proud dude, but there's reasons for it. And so I just want to let you know that. That's all.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That means a lot. So that was, the second big hit, or maybe the third or fourth, because, I dealt with drug addiction, depression, right? And then PTSD to follow with the accident. And then we fast forward to 2016, just when you thought I'd had enough and I'd kind of regained myself and reinvented myself and climbed back out of that hole I was in. And my friends, my family stepped up. They had a little small intervention with me, actually. And we got back on track. And so 2016, I'm out for a ride on my motorcycle. So, riding things fast since day one. Dirt bikes were a big thing, then motorcycles as soon as I could get on one. So I'm out for a ride on my Harley. And I was living at one of my other best friend, actually. So there's Jarret and there's Jonathan Fillion. And I was living out at his place in Battersea, or in Perth Road, which is, just north of Battersea, and it's out in the sticks. And so it was a nice windy road, and I'm going through out in this nice country road for a ride. And all of a sudden I see a flash of brown in the corner of my eye. and boom, I get hit, and I got hit by a deer, and it runs right in the side of me. And I get in a speed wobble. I'm going back and forth, and I actually got control of the bike, and I look up, and there's a 90-degree turn in the road, and I hadn't slowed down yet because I was concentrating on not falling. And so I tried to turn as hard as I could, and I counter steer, and the peg scraping off the side of the road, and I almost make it. I'm just getting by, and the back wheel just touches the gravel on the shoulder of the road, and the bike just shoots out from under me. And so as I'm going down, I remember thinking, don't hit your head. Don't hit your head. You're a firefighter. Any motorcycle accident I've been to, they hit their head, they're done. So I tried to ride it out, and I bounced off the road on my butt twice, and I shot down into the ditch feet first, and I'm riding on my butt, and I'm hit a rock with my right foot, and it snaps right off at the knee. And the bike comes in, hits the rock, lands right on top of me. And I remember thinking, first of all, oh my God, I just did it again. I just crashed again. And then second of all, I'm gonna fight, right? It's just instinct. I'm gonna fight until I die. And so I took the bike and I flipped the bike off me. And they say I'm a pretty strong guy, and they say when your adrenaline's going, you're extra, you get that extra little bit of power. Well, that's an 800-pound Harley laying on top of me, and I literally just bench pressed it off me, threw it, looked down, my knee is dislocated. It's holding on by a little thing of skin. I'm bleeding. There's a white ball, and I didn't know what the white ball was. And I'm looking, and what's that white ball? It was actually my ankle. The ankle ball was exposed. My foot was ripped off. My tibia and fibula were sticking, lawn darted into the ground. And I remember grabbing my leg and pulling on it, and I couldn't feel it. And I was like, oh. And it was kind of like surreal, like it wasn't me almost. And so I stopped, and I was shaking, and I remember I grabbed my phone, and I'm down in the ditch. You don't realize, like I was down in this ditch, and no one's going to see me down in this ditch. And I'm on this country road, and someone might not come along for an hour. And so I took my belt off first, and I tried to put a tourniquet on my leg as tight as I could. You're not going to get a good one, as you both know, but it did slow it down enough that I'm here. And so I got my phone out, and I'm shaking, and I was going to do 911. And I know that 911 transfers a couple times. So I'm like, not 911. I'm going to phone right to the fire department. They're going to send my people. And I did. And I hit the numbers, and I got it on the first try, and I was shaking so bad. I was pretty proud of that. I was like, yes, I got it right. And she answered, hey, Mike, how are you? Because it came up on the screen, Mike Laughlin, right? And I'm dying in a ditch in North Shore Road. I'm at the end. Come get me. I might die any second, right? And she kept me on the line I was on the line for 17 minutes. And I guess, something I didn't know until after was everyone in the building in fire headquarters was hovered over the phone, listening to me scream and yell and say goodbye and tell them, to say goodbye to my family and all that stuff. And, but then I heard sirens coming. And so the fire trucks were coming and gave me that extra little boost. But while I was down in that ditch for those 17 minutes, I always tell this little story. It's usually part of the long version, but I got to tell it, Sean. A car went by and didn't see me. So I took my helmet off, and I threw it up on the road, and I threw a couple bike parts that broke off the bike up on the road so the next car would stop. And it did. And when it stopped, this little old lady got out, and she walked the side of the road, and she looks down at me. And then she starts making her way down to the ditch. I thought she was going to look at me and be like, no, and get back in her car, right? And just phone 911 or whatever people do. And she didn't. She made her way down to me, and she put her arms around me and said, it's going to be okay. And I'll tell you, that's what I needed. I needed someone to be there with me at that point because I thought it was over, right? And it gave me that little extra bit of fight. And it's a big thing, this day and age, people walk over top of someone on the sidewalk that's unconscious. They'll never check them. They don't care. They're busy. Or they'll, there's a car accident. They'll just put their blinker on and go right on by, not ask if they need any help. And so, I try to tell everyone, don't be that person that drives by. Be the person that she was for me, because I needed that. And I think maybe without her, I might have just laid down and gave up. But when I got that little extra burst, that I was like, she whispered in my ear, you're going to make it. It was what I needed. And it always gets me emotional. And Sean, you're not making fun of me anymore, but it's for a reason.
I'm gonna make fun.
I expect nothing less.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, it's just a good thing that your bike didn't blow up, or it'd be a whole different story. So my two questions are this. One, the old lady who came down, did you know her, or have you since connected with her?
So we thought it must be a nurse or something, right? She was able to handle the gory stuff, didn't flinch. So my mom tracked her down, and it was a retired teacher. And no, we didn't know her, but we were able to track her down and thank her.
Okay,
And
cool as hell.
I haven't stayed in touch with her, but I think it's something that might have to happen down the road is,
Dude, as of today.
check in with her, right?
That's right. Okay, second thing. So you're in the ditch, you're having your moment. I mean, it sucks. Dude, it totally sucks. But, 17 minutes and you're chirping on the phone. The first 30 seconds, you're telling your monologue about how it's been such a good ride and see y'all later. I love y'all. And then you've got another 16 and a half minutes of chirping.
Yep.
So I'm curious.
There was
How your story changed throughout those 17 minutes, the sort of roller coaster that you went on from, holy moly, I'm about to hammer in the next 30 seconds to, wow, I can hear sirens. That's a journey unto itself. So I'm curious about that. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
So, yeah, you're right. Like at first it was just panic. Then once I got that phone call in and I had them coming, I settled in a bit. But when I say I was at a 10 out of 10 of pain, a lot of people say, oh, I'm a 10 out of 10 of pain, right? They have no idea what a 10 out of 10 is, right? When your leg's ripped off, your neck's broken in 2 spots, your back's broken in 3 spots, and you're laying there, thinking you're dying. Well, I was literally the entire time fighting, not just laying down and just giving up. And so when I say that, like, it was the hardest fight of my life, because it was like you're constantly aware that or trying to lay down. Your mind is trying to tell you to lay down, and you fight it the entire time. Do you know what I mean, Sean? And so for 17 minutes I did that, but I calmed down, and and one of the neighbors walked up too. The lady came, I talked to her a bit, was trying to, like, I don't know, I was not listening to her, but I kind of was. And the neighbor came over, and I gave him actually a job because he was bothering me. Believe it or not, he was like panicking, and I was like, go get me another rope so I can tie another tourniquet on my leg. So I was actually like directing people as well. While I don't know how, but I was trying to get him out of I just didn't want him to bother me anymore. It's kind of weird. And I don't really tell that part of the story because it's not relevant, but so it's until you ask this question, of course, Sean asked a tough question, right?
Super legit though.
Yeah. And so I was kind of in control from that point. And then when I heard the sirens, I remember just being like, oh, I did it. Right. And when the first firefighter made contact with me, I actually knew the firefighter, and I totally just laid back and let them do their thing. I just knew I did my part. Now it's their turn to save me, because I know that's my job. Right. And I did. I just laid back and let it happen. And they cut your clothes off, and everything's it's just a mad scramble, and they're putting you on a backboard and then into the ambulance. And I remember on the way to the hospital, Chance, they pumped me full of painkillers, and it was doing nothing. And the paramedic's like, listen, I've given you the most we can give you. I don't know what's going on. I go, well, I do. I said, I've done this before, and I've been addicted to these things. And he's like, oh. He goes, I'm sorry, dude. I can't give you anymore. I'm like, it's okay. I earned this. I did this to myself. It's my fault. Right. And I remember, being like, taking ownership in it. I mean, like, okay, I'm going to suffer, and it's for a reason. And it was kind of like that in the hospital too. Like a lot of the time I was like, I'm suffering for a reason. I did this to myself, and I'm going to recover myself. It's just like my hard-headed, mindset. And so I got to the hospital, and they put you on even more painkillers. And then the doctor comes to me, and he says, listen, I have to put you in a coma. I can't do anything more for you for the pain. I said, and I remember begging him. I was like, please put me in a coma, please. And so they did. And I was asleep for 8 days, and they did 7 surgeries while I was asleep. And then I woke up. And I remember when I woke up, I opened my eyes, and my mom was there. And she's like, Mike, you're awake. It's okay. You're okay, but don't move. And I realized I was strapped down to the hospital bed. And she said, you can't move. And I have this big neck brace on. And at the time, I didn't know what my injuries were. I knew my leg was in trouble, and that's it. And so I had this neck brace on, and she said, you broke your neck in 2 spots, and you broke 3 vertebrae in your back, and you've got 2 12-inch rods in your spine now. And I'm just like, in shock. I'm like, how is that possible? I was crawling around. I threw the bike off me, right? I was doing all kinds of stuff in the ditch. How can you break your neck and back in that many spots and not know? And, it just goes to show your adrenaline and everything's going. And that untapped 60, Sean, that I tapped into that day, we really do believe that, that was one of those instances that there's that untapped 60 right there is, that's how I know it's a real thing. And so there's my, start of my new journey. I had to, I was 30 days in the hospital there, and I was 30 days in the recovery hospital learning how to be an amputee. They actually did attach my leg for a couple days, but then it didn't retake. It was just a dead limb. So they cut it back off. And so, yeah, that's when the journey started. So I remember laying there once they said they were going to amputate my leg. I laid there for about an hour and cried, and my family, cried with me, and we did our thing. And then I was like, okay, screw this. I said, my leg's not growing back, right? They're taking it. That's a fact. I said, Dad, grab the iPad that's right there. And he did. And I said, look up what the best prosthetic leg in the world is. And he types in, best prosthetic leg in the world. And this big operator guy, Green Beret, standing there with this Autobot X3, right? Nick Laverty, right? And I go, I want that one. I want to be that guy. And he's like, yeah, whatever. Okay. And so, long story short, 4 months later, I had two of them, one for wearing and one for firefighting. Right. And that's the next part of the story is I thought I was, everyone thought I was done with firefighting. You don't have a leg, you broke your neck and your back. How is that possible? You're probably going to, move into dispatch or somewhere where you can sit in a chair and do your thing. And that was never, ever on my mind. It was like, how do I get back to firefighting? And so the time came when, I was working at the gym all the time. I had my leg and started looking more like myself. And I went to the chief's office and I was like, Chief, what do I got to do to get back? And he's like, Mike's never been done before. I don't even know where to begin with this. But he goes, I'll take a chance with you. He goes, I know who you are. I know what you're about. And he goes, if you can pass the test you did to get on the fire department with no props, just like everyone else does, you can keep your job just like you did. And I was like, deal. Shook his hand right there on the spot and went to work and started training my ass off. And, the guys on my crew and all the other crews helped me at the training grounds, and we were doing ladders and we were doing stairs and we were doing body, dummy drags and hose drags and all the stuff. And the test came and I passed with flying colors and actually beat a couple of times with two-legged people had. And I got my job back, and I became the first ever in Canada to ever, above knee amputee full-time firefighter. And I'm still 9 years later, still the only one. So I guess maybe it is a little tough to do. I figured someone else would do it by now, but in the US, there's 4. In Sweden, there's 1. So since I did it, we've helped 2 people. When I say we, at the same time I lost my leg, Brandon Anderson, American, he lost his leg, motorcycle, same thing. And he got back to work actually 2 months before me. But I joke with him. I say, you're a bit of a wuss because you didn't break your neck and back. You just lost your leg. And so you beat me by 2 months, but you did nothing. You're kind of a wuss. So it's a good joke between us both.
He got handed that on a silver platter. Come on.
Easy.
So I'm gonna add to this quickly. Just back to Mike wanting to be when he had that mentality. And this is where, I think Untapped 60 and Make It 8 Day me comes in. When he told me that, I said, okay, good, let's do it. I'm not going to, why question if there's anyone who's going to have that mentality? It was him. Did I think he was crazy? Do I think screws are loose upstairs with him still? Yeah. But why would we ever, in anyone, why would we say no to your dream or aspiration? Well, let's do it. Let's go. And if it took Mike 10 years to get back, well, he did it. But it took him 8 or 9 or 12 or however long. I'm like, that's crazy. But that's what I think a lot of people need. And that's where I think I came in with Mike being like, sure, okay, what do you got to do? Let's do it. Do you need me to help you bench press? Do you need me to help you carry a hose? Like, what do you want me to do? Sure, let's go. So I just want to add to that. That mentality is bananas.
I got a question for you, Mike. So you've been talking about your story. When did your story begin?
When did my story begin? I think with the first time I experienced adversity, like I floated
was it the snowmobile? Was it
snowmobile? I floated through life before that.
Do you think for sure that's when your story began?
No, you know what? You're right. It didn't, because I attribute a lot of what I did getting back to work both times, both accidents, all the recovery I've done to sports. And I started sports at a young age, competitive sports. And it's that mindset that I don't want to lose. I'm going to win at all costs. And so I do revert back to that a lot and say, I think sports taught me that. And when it came down to it, getting back as a firefighter both times, I was like, I'm not going to lose. I'm not going to let this beat me. Right. I want to win. And so my story starts much before that in competitive sports, but it might even start before that because I grew up on a farm and I grew up tough.
That's where I'm going for sure.
Yeah.
So, like, I think
Freaking farm boys.
we're all born with certain qualities and attributes, etc. But I think that these kind of epic stories require more than just, a normal life. And so something was infused into you at an early age. Maybe it was on the farm. Maybe it was through competitive sports. Maybe it was through a mentor, a leader. Maybe it was your dad. Maybe it was your neighbor. Maybe it was your freaking dog. It doesn't much matter. But these stories don't start the second you're flying over an island at 90 miles an hour. And they don't start in a ditch. They often start long before that. So I'll ask you the question again. Is there a specific moment that you can think of that your story started? Or was there a person or a theme? As you said, maybe it's competitive sports, but now that you're thinking about it, what would it be?
It's the first time I've been put on the spot about with this question, right? But my dad, right? My dad was tough as nails, never let anything, beat him. I had a good upbringing, and yeah, it could be. I just spent time with my dad changing a brake line this morning on one of my old trucks, and it was awesome. I considered cutting the other brake line just to go back and do it again because we're getting older. My dad's getting older. There's been health stuff, and it was like just spending that time doing what we love. And we're not like I love you guys. We're not hugs and kisses, but spending that time together is the love. Do you know what I mean? It's that old school mentality where we just know it's there. And, Dad, I need to change a brake line. Yeah, come on over. Let's do that. Right. There's the love right there that's our love between my dad and myself. It's not like, I love you, Dad. We don't do that. It's just, and sometimes I wonder if I should, but I think a lot of people have that relationship with their dad. And so I think it probably goes right back to my upbringing and, the way my parents were and the way my dad and how I looked up to him. He's always been my hero. Right.
I'll add to that, Laughlin, just to help his brain, Sean, a little bit. I gotta prime it sometimes. The couple of times he's mentioned that skidooing accident was when he first realized he wasn't invincible. So I don't know if that was the starting point, but all of a sudden, because he was always a tough guy in hockey, nothing ever bothered Mike. We, him and I would hug each other or whatever. I was always the love you guy. Tell all my buddies, love you, man, miss you. So, but I know he's resorted back a few times saying, I just realized it wasn't invisible all of a sudden. I could have been dead. So I think likely a lot of his story maybe didn't start there, but that's where it really accelerated. Maybe that was a catalyst to say, oh boy. So that's one. And I would say the whole farm boy mentality and Laughlin being always our tough guy and our tough buddy and the guy that nothing could ever hurt him. We would go to him for things because he, never get phased. But hey, everyone's breakable.
Well, they sure are. And I do know some people who are referred to as tough guys. And I do know that some of the tough guys out there are the ones who struggle the most. And so, for all of his epicness, Mike, often the case for guys like Mike or, maybe myself or friends of mine, for all of our strengths, there is a counterbalance to those strengths. And that is our quiet pride, our quiet stubbornness, our desire to fix it all by ourselves and not hug it out, as it were. There's always a downside to the upside. And so, Mike, do you have a couple of thoughts in mind in respect to what your downsides were as you moved through that were personal to you, not universal, but things that you personally struggled with because of your ability to stubborn your way through things?
Well, the big one was just not accepting help, right? Never asking for help. I didn't need it. I can do it myself. I think, and we touched on that earlier. I was, it took me a long time to accept that. It took me a long time to be able to tell my story because I was embarrassed. And so those are two things that I just wish I had done. I had to have realized earlier that I didn't need to be doing it. I didn't need to be hiding anything. I didn't need to be being a tough guy, carrying that around with me. Right. You don't, and you're right, Sean. It's the guys like us that are like that. Just the meatheads that are, we just don't want it. We don't want the help, and we don't want to show emotion, and we don't want to, we don't need it. But since I have let go of that, my life has changed for the better. I'm living my best life because of that. I've let go of all that, and then jiu-jitsu, Chance. Wow. What an eye opener. I'm very green at jiu-jitsu, but I've taken it up pretty seriously and I love it. And that was a humbling experience, and I needed that. And it's just like, wow, I'm starting at the bottom. There can be this nerdy looking guy on the mat, and all of a sudden he pulls out his black belt and he twists you a new ball and shows you that, you know what, you're not tough. You're not tough at all.
Congratulations, weakling.
Yeah, exactly. I was just saying to Chance before this, I just rolled. I just sat down here, with you guys right after, and I was gassed because I showed up and it was like 4 instructors and 3, guys like me learning, and they were just pummeling us, right? And for the better and for the good. And I was told halfway through, like by one of the guys, was like, "Wow, you've come a long way. You're doing great." And at the end of the class, and this is what I wanted to share with you, Chance, was I broke down and I started crying in front of these tough guys a little bit. So it's been a little bit of a teary day, Sean. And I was like,
That's amazing though.
Right. What's that?
That's amazing.
It is.
Tell me what's not amazing about that.
And I'm okay with that now.
Right on.
The old me wouldn't have been. And I said to him, the two instructors, I said, guys, it's been 9 years since I belonged to a team. And I was always a hockey player, a fastball player. I was always the captain of the team. I was always one of the best players. And since I lost my leg, I've never gone back to anything. I've never found something that I belong to. And I said, I belong here. And you guys have invited me in, and you're making me feel like part of the team. And I said, that's just been missing in my life. And I'm emotional right now because it's just, my whole life's been sports. My whole life has been belonging to a team. My job is belonging to a team. And so it's just huge. I just thanked them, and I said, sorry for this watery discharge. I don't know what it is. It's salty discharge coming out my eyes, but guys, it just hit me today that this is, what I've needed. And so that's the story I want to tell you, Chance. I told you earlier, I had something to tell you. Jiu-jitsu's really opened my eyes up and given me.
Sean, I want to add.
It's even worse. You're going to have to cry a little bit more because guess what? You're on another team. You're on the collective, bro. It's like your second show. You know what I'm saying? And don't make it a big deal. Don't be cheering because you're more like the water boy right now than anything else. But it's good to be on a team. You're right, and not just any old team. It's good to be on the right team, and so BJJ is the right team. And obviously, how you've run your life is pretty freaking epic. But you know what I do find interesting, Mike, and this will be my last question to you because I know I've kind of hogged it with the questions today. So you've done all of these things, and here you are, a grown-ass man, just starting to sort of realize the things that you've missed. And so you've missed sort of hanging out with the bro-hemos on the teams. What else? What's your next thing? What is the thing that you've realized that you need to re-engage in?
Wow. I don't know what's next. I just found jiu-jitsu, and I'm so engaged in that. And shout out to YGK combatives here in Kingston, because they're a family. There's no one out there to get you. They're all out there to help you. But my next thing is Untapped 60. It really is helping more people, because the greatest feeling that I've felt in the last 9 years is helping someone that is struggling and sharing my story with them and telling them that they can do this and having them be like, wow, you've changed my life. That is the greatest feeling I've felt in the last 9 years. And so I want more of it. It's an addiction, but it's a healthy addiction that I really want more of. So that I would say that's it, Sean. And I do want to add the last little part of the story for anybody listening. I met my wife while I was in the rehabilitation hospital. I was wheeling around in my wheelchair looking like Joe Dirt, no leg, 150 pounds. And I was looking for hot nurses. I was a 36-year-old single man. And so long story short, I ran into this nurse. I was like, wow, she's the most beautiful person I've ever seen. I asked her on a date. We went on a date. I blew the date. I ruined the date. I told her I wanted to marry and have kids that day. Probably not the thing you should do on a first date, right, Sean? But she gave me a second chance a couple months later, and the rest is history. We got married in 2018. We have a 5-year-old boy, Lincoln, who started jiu-jitsu before me, and he's the reason I started jiu-jitsu. And I have a daughter, 14-year-old daughter with Down syndrome, Kiana, who is the party of every room. She just went to Katy Perry last night, and she stole the show. And so my life couldn't be better. And it all happened after all of these tragedies. I've made the best of my life, and I'm now living my best life.
It's funny you said you like to go fast on things, but like on the first date, like that's fast, man. That's giving her. I love it.
I want to add a couple things here, boys, to what Laughlin was saying. One, it goes back a little bit, Sean, but we were talking about being tough and Laughlin being, and my question is, now that we're 44 years old, I'm a financial planner, so financial services, and I have a practice here in Toronto. And the things I've learned from people, the people I've met, some of the richest people, some of the poorest people, you name it. And you can see it all over. I know rich people who are miserable. I know poor people who are the happiest they've ever been. So money, and I came from no money. I had to learn some stuff. But what is tough? That's what I've learned so much in the last 20 years. And I think so is Mike. I can almost speak from, what does tough mean? Tough, I can take a punch. I can't take a punch to save my life. You slap me, I get passed out. I'm terrible. Mike I can punch him in the back. He's tough. But emotionally, is he tough? Well, he went through a suicide. I don't know. I almost took my own life when I had to say goodbye to my dog. Am I tough? So what does tough mean? And that's a really, really challenging one to answer. So I just want to add that's a lot of research we've done, and again, the lived experiences. And then what's the other one I was going to say about, Mike, about helping other people? You know, I've talked about this. There's a reason why I think you two have helped other people. This podcast helps other people. There's a reason why helping other people feels so good. There's a chemical reaction inside your body. It is 100% proven addiction, and we should do more of it, and we should help as many people as we can. Can we help them all? No. But this is a really cool thing to do. And when I've coached my kid, I've coached youth hockey for the last 5 years, and I've cried more in 5 years at youth hockey watching some kid do something I taught them than I have in probably 20 years. And helping other people is a proven addiction, and it can help that domino effect. So I love where we're at with Untapped 60. I'm so proud of Mike and the man he's become. But I just want to add those comments.
This is perfect. There's a comment here that I want to touch on, and it goes right to what you said, Jarret. Salty Jinx jumped in here. He said, there's something about being capable in the moment when you face something that is complicated. And I think this is the key thing for a lot of us, especially the people that want to serve. They want to help. They want to do those things. Is there's that feeling. You're the one that solved the thing. You're the one that broke the problem. You're the one that, like, sweet, I got it. And then you can move forward with your actions. And I think there's a piece to service that is a little bit self-serving, because we like that feeling. We like being the guy that did it. Not so much for the lauding, but the fact that, like, I solved the problem. I got to be that guy in that instant. And I love it. Sean, what do you got?
I said I was all out of questions. I've got a billion questions. I'm just trying to hold them back. But I do have one more. And this is probably something that we won't have time to dig into, looking at the fact that we're probably going to have to do final thoughts here shortly. So as a wrap-up question that I'm going to throw out You don't have to answer this. Nobody has to answer this right now. That's probably more for the audience. So Mike is in a ditch as a firefighter, and he's about to solve some complex problems. Here's something interesting about that. And this is certainly the case for myself and Chance. Jarret, I don't know too much about your Jason Bourne lifestyle, but chances are you haven't been in as many situations that are highly complex, life-threatening as perhaps Mike. So we were, to some degree, all formally trained to be in that ditch and manage it. And so that doesn't make it easy. It just means that we're capable of managing it. Now, what the next seconds bring to bear are not part of the story. It's just the fact that you're laying in a ditch in that moment, like Mike. And now what do you do? My question is this. Do you feel that it is even more epic for someone who isn't qualified to be in that situation to work through it and come out in your situation and be a mirror image of what you've accomplished to date? Do you think it's even more epic for them, or does it matter? And I don't expect an answer, because probably the more you iterate the question in your mind, because I've iterated it about 100 times before I asked it, there's many ways to answer this question. And so I'd challenge the audience who's listening not to have a knee-jerk reaction and snap out at, well, of course it is. Think a little bit deeper about that. It doesn't mean that just because you weren't qualified to be in that situation that you're better or worse. It just means that it's different and it's worth thinking about.
Ooh, that is my brain went into like 7 or 8 different pathways right off the bat.
I've got a knee-jerk reaction to that one. I was like, I know answer, but I'll think. I'll go deep.
So I really do appreciate this conversation, though. This has been great, learning more about your story, Mike, especially, and Jarret. I wish I could have gotten some more into you. Sean was a little aggressive on the mic today, which is not normal, but
it is not normal. It is not normal, boys. And my apologies. You know what it's like, though. Once I gotta have answers. Yeah. I gotta.
I saw the target lock right as soon as we jumped into this, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a good one. Let's do it. But I just have a couple of comments here I want to touch on, and then we can get some final thoughts on everything we've talked about so far. Just to hit on these because they're important. Dylan jumped in here a little bit earlier, said people who commit suicide are not dumb people. It's like you said, they are going through emotional pain. My cousin drowned herself in the ice river, and I said the world needs more rescue divers. There you go. And like, I've heard so many stories of people who create solutions immediately because that's what Dylan's working towards, I think. Then we got Glenn Kirkland jumped in here. Forged in Fire. Good to see you, Glenn. Haven't seen him in a while. Well done. And Dancy have you ever cut and listened to the call? This is really interesting. I was going to ask this as well earlier. Have you ever listened to the call you made, the 17 minutes on the phone? Have you ever listened to that afterwards?
So Jarret wanted me to get it, and I'm not at the point where I want to listen to it. I think it would do more damage listening to it than it would help.
Right.
Dude, there might not be enough biosteel. There might not be enough electrolyte mix.
There'd be a definite loss of hydration going through that one. I could definitely hit that one. Dan, he says, the reason I asked, because I had to do it for a couple of my calls. And as a police officer, that makes sense, having to go back and check that in. Mike jumps in here. He says, awesome to hear that you fought through it all, refusing to give up, switching that mindset to survival mode. 100%. And Dan actually jumped back in. He says it's worth it to listen. So maybe think about it. We'll see where it goes. I have one question, and I want to use it as a bit of a final thought as well. But the question I have is the first accident with your snowmobile and the second accident, you described 2 different people reacting to the scene, right? And I mean, yourself in that matter, right? There's a difference between crawling for help, I'm trying to get to somebody else, and I have to work on I have to get to work. Bike's off, immediate tourniquet, that kind of stuff. Would you attribute that to, like, say, experience? Just the fact that you'd been a firefighter longer, you have a bit more training, you have a bit more, et cetera, or was it a mindset shift?
No, so I do say this. I kind of went into I treated myself as a patient. And I just kind of went into what do I do? I'm a firefighter. This is what I would do to someone else. This is what I'm going to do. And that's when I started, working the tourniquet and assessing the scene. What do I have? I got stuff to throw up on the road. I got doing all those things. I just kind of went into, it was survival mode, but I attributed to, all the years of firefighting. At that point, I was a 16-year firefighter. I'd been at lots of accidents similar to that. And I was just like, what would I do if I was, I was looking down at me, what would I do? And so that's what I do, tell people when they ask this question, because it does get asked.
Yeah. I dig it. It makes a lot of sense. Like you go from training without, because you were a firefighter the first time at the first accident, correct? Or not?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, you go from training and a little bit of experience to tons of experience in the second accident. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So let's get some final thoughts, because we are a little bit over an hour now. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us for the extra time here. Anything that still bubble in the back of your brain about your story, about Untapped 60, about anything that we've talked about today that you'd like to add? Jarret, I'm going to come to you first. What do you think?
Is there anything that's bubbling? I'll tell you this. This is what I want to do. Plain and simple. I've been a CFP, a financial advisor for 16 years. I love my practice. I love my clients, and I'm going to stick doing that. There's I've been training and doing all this stuff for that, and I have a successful practice, and I'm proud of it. This is a whole different thing. And it speaks to your gut and your purpose in life. And, I'm just thankful I have Mike, him and I have stayed close, and he came to me and I said, I'm going to ride your coattails in this. You're okay with that? And he's like, we're best friends, man. Like, let's do this together. This, I can authentically say, man, this is it. This is what we want to do. And this is what, we're going to continue to do. And that's probably the burning desires. I'm hyper speed in my head. So is Laughlin. He'll try to tell you he's not, but I want everything done yesterday. I see us, I shoot for the moon. If we miss, we land amongst the stars, is my saying. This is what I want to do. So I love it. And I think he's an incredible man. And I appreciate guys like you having us on the show and us being able to spread the message. But this is what drives me forward right now. So thank you.
I dig it. And this is part of the job. This is what I love about podcasting, is we get to hang out with cool people and talk about all these things that matter. Mike, any final thoughts?
Well, I just wanted to thank you guys again for this is my second time on the show and making me think again. Sean, appreciate that. I did warn Jarret we're gonna have to think on this show, and you did. And you know what? Maybe we'll do a third one. You never know. If you guys want to hear some more stories, I have lots of stories off the beaten path of the main ones. So have us back.
I love it. Sean, any final thoughts?
I do. So for Jarret, as the example, it's what you want to do. Good. Podcasting isn't what I wanted to do, but I gave away my company to come and do it. Do you know why? Because it's the right thing to do. Because that's what's righteous. That's what needs to be done nowadays. And so, whether you like it or not, Jarret, here you are in the pipeline, kicking that ass. So keep on keeping on. Mike, to you, second time on the podcast. First time, I only got to know you a little bit, but in this one, I kind of feel like I got to know you enough that, you're on for the third, no doubt about it. It's got to happen. If Jarret comes along for the ride in that pipeline, all the merrier. So my final thought is this, that, and it goes back to the comment that Dylan made just a few minutes ago about his cousin in the river in respect to suicide. My own brother, my younger brother, committed suicide when we were kids due to bullying in high school. And that's a story unto itself. So it is a subject that I, to some degree, understand and have given a lot of thought over the decades. And it's one of the reasons, not the reason, but it's one of the many reasons that I remain engaged in the mental health wellness sort of movement in order to try and help others move through those things and many other things like it. And so my final comment is this, that though these kind of moments in a river or these kind of moments in high school feel like They're huge moments in your life. They're epic moments in your life, just like Mike had some epic moments in his life. They can move your needle. They for sure can help you move down the pipeline with more vigor. But I'll say this as fact. It doesn't take epic things to do epic stuff. You've just got to stand up and realize that the small things matter just as much as the epic things matter. And when you get the thought on a small thing to do something big with it, just freaking kick that ass.
I don't have a ton to add. I think the only thing I would say is, to your point, Sean, I would say all epic things are built on the little things. So if you want to do something epic, get to work on the little stuff, because that's what'll take you there. This show would not be here if it wasn't for the fact that I sit down and I look at my schedule and I go through the list and I send people emails, and it doesn't feel awesome like sitting down for a thoughtful conversation does. But it's so important. That's the little pieces. And yeah, I love it. This going to jiu-jitsu, taking care of yourself, doing the things that like you need to be there so that you can give to others. That's the little stuff. It may not feel good, but it makes up for it in the end. So that's all I got as we all continue to learn, build, and grow. We'll see you all next week. Chimo.
Thanks everybody for watching and being part of the collective. If this has sparked any thoughts or resonated with you, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us grow and keeps the conversation going. We'll see you all next time.